Becoming dangerously intelligent is not about having the highest IQ, memorizing endless facts, or sounding impressive in conversations. It's about building a type of intelligence that quietly gives you an advantage, the ability to read situations clearly, anticipate outcomes before they happen, avoid unnecessary mistakes, and move through life with precision instead of confusion. When someone develops this level of thinking, they stop being a passive participant in life and begin acting like a strategist, someone who chooses actions deliberately rather than reacting to circumstances. In this audiobook, you will explore the mental frameworks, habits, and thought patterns that elevate your thinking beyond the average level. You will understand how clarity cuts through noise, how knowledge becomes leverage, how emotional control shapes outcomes, and how highly effective people think, decide, communicate, and observe. The goal is not to appear intelligent, but to become effective, to become someone whose thinking produces real, measurable results. You'll notice that the most strategic minds don't rush. They don't panic under pressure. Instead, they recognize patterns where others see randomness, and they position themselves for outcomes rather than depending on luck. These are not inborn talents. They are learnable skills. And once you begin applying them, your life changes in subtle but powerful ways. Opportunities become easier to recognize. Mistakes become easier to avoid, and success becomes less dependent on chance. This audiobook is designed to be practical. Every concept shared here is meant to be applied immediately, whether in decision-making, relationships, business, learning, time management, or personal growth. If you're ready to stop guessing and start understanding, if you're ready to move from reacting to anticipating, and if you're ready to think like a strategist instead of hoping things work out, then you're exactly where you need to be. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Start with clarity, or stay lost. Clarity is the foundation of becoming dangerously intelligent. Without clarity, every attempt at improvement turns into guesswork. When you lack clarity, you don't know what to aim for. You don't know what truly matters. You don't know what deserves your attention or what should be ignored. And without those distinctions, life becomes exhausting. You stay busy, but you don't move forward. You work hard, but you don't achieve meaningful results. You think constantly, but you don't reach understanding. Clarity removes this mental fog. It acts as a lens that sharpens everything, making your thinking simpler, more focused, and more strategic. Here's the truth most people learn too late. Confusion is expensive. It wastes time. It drains energy. And it forces you to accept whatever comes your way instead of creating what you actually want. Clarity is not just about knowing what you want. It's about understanding why you want it and what you're willing to sacrifice to achieve it. Without a clear reason, your goals collapse under pressure. Without a defined cost, your goals remain fantasies. This is where strategic thinkers separate themselves. They don't just dream, they define. They don't just hope, they plan. They don't react, they direct. They take time to think deeply. They decide what matters and in what order. And once they commit, they move with purpose. One of the greatest advantages clarity gives you is the ability to say no. When you're unclear, everything looks like an opportunity. But when you're clear, most things instantly reveal themselves as distractions. And distractions are dangerous. They don't always look harmful. Sometimes they look exciting. Sometimes they feel urgent. Sometimes they even seem profitable. But if they don't move you forward, they're just noise disguised as opportunity. Clarity protects you from that noise. But here's something important. Clarity doesn't appear automatically. It must be created. You develop clarity by slowing down your thinking instead of rushing it. You develop it by asking better questions. What am I really trying to achieve? What does success actually look like? What would failure look like? What resources do I have? And what am I missing? When you ask real questions, your mind produces real answers, and real answers give you power. Clarity also simplifies decision-making. When you're clear, decisions become faster. When you're unclear, decisions become heavy. You hesitate, you overthink, you delay. You wait for signs, permission, or reassurance. And waiting is one of the most expensive habits you can have. Opportunities don't wait. People don't wait. Time never waits. Clarity removes that hesitation. Another powerful benefit of clarity is emotional stability. When you know what you're doing and why, you don't panic when things get difficult. You don't abandon your goals when progress is slow. You don't lose confidence when others doubt you. You expect challenges because you understand the path. Only those who are lost panic when conditions change. Those with clarity stay steady. Becoming dangerously intelligent starts here, because clarity is the foundation of everything. Without clarity, strategy becomes improvisation. Without clarity, learning becomes scattered information. Without clarity, effort becomes exhaustion. But with clarity, effort compounds. Learning turns into advantage. Decisions become intentional. If you want to make your life harder, stay unclear. But if you want to make your life sharper, more focused, and more strategic, start with clarity. Define your direction. Define your priorities. Define your boundaries. Because the moment you become clear, confusion loses its power over you. Chapter 2. Turn information into advantage. Information by itself is not power. If it were, the most successful people would simply be those who know the most facts or consume the most content. But that's not how reality works. The people who truly win are the ones who know how to transform information into insight, into leverage, into strategy, into action. That is what makes someone dangerously intelligent. They don't just collect knowledge, they convert it. We live in a time where information is everywhere. You can scroll endlessly, watch hours of content, read article after article, and still not become smarter, still not make better decisions, still not move forward. Why? Because information without direction becomes noise, and noise doesn't help you. It distracts you. To actually become smarter, you need a filter. You need purpose. You need a way to decide what matters and what doesn't. Strategic thinkers don't chase random information. They look for patterns. They look for principles. And most importantly, they look for relevance. Relevance is everything. Information that doesn't connect to your goals has no strategic value. It might be interesting. It might make you sound intelligent in conversation, but it won't make you effective. Real intelligence respects priorities. Here's something most people overlook. Every piece of information serves a different function. Some help you make decisions faster. Some help you avoid mistakes. Some help you recognize opportunities. Some help you understand others. And some help you understand yourself. The key is to organize information, not let it blur into meaningless data. Smart thinkers don't just ask, "What is this?" They ask, "How can I use this?" That single shift changes everything. When you start viewing information as leverage, your mind stops acting like storage and starts acting like a processing system. And processing systems are far more valuable than storage systems. For example, financial knowledge helps you make smarter investments. Psychological knowledge helps you read behavior. Strategic knowledge helps you plan ahead. Career knowledge helps you navigate opportunities. When knowledge connects to action, it becomes power. Another key advantage of strategic thinkers is their ability to connect ideas. Most people learn something new and it stays isolated, like a puzzle piece with no context. But strategic thinkers immediately ask, where does this fit? They compare. They relate. They integrate. Over time, this builds mental maps, frameworks of how the world works. And once you have these maps, life stops feeling confusing because you're no longer guessing, you're navigating. Without mental maps, you rely on luck. With them, you move with direction. Now let's talk about the biggest trap in modern learning: passive consumption. It feels productive, it feels like growth, but it's not. It's like eating without digesting. You consume more, but you don't improve. To become dangerously intelligent, you must shift to active learning. Active learning means pausing to think, questioning ideas, connecting concepts, applying what you learn. It's slower, but far more powerful. Another powerful habit: taking better notes. Not everything, just the important things. Write down patterns, frameworks, insights, and most importantly, write them in your own words, because when you can explain something simply, you understand it deeply. Strategic thinkers also learn from people, not just content. They observe how others think, decide, react, and behave under pressure. They don't just listen to what people say, they watch what people do. Everything becomes data. Success is data. Failure is data. Conversations are data. Even silence is data. At a higher level, information becomes advantage when you combine three things: acquisition, interpretation, application. Acquisition gives you raw input. Interpretation gives you understanding. Application gives you results, miss one, and the system fails. If you collect but don't interpret, noise. If you interpret but don't apply, theory. If you act without understanding, blind action. True intelligence requires all three. Here's the final truth: information fades, insight compounds. The people who become dangerously intelligent don't just learn more, they think better. And when you learn how to think, life becomes something you can navigate with strategy instead of confusion, intention instead of impulse, and advantage instead of hope. Chapter 3: Play long-term games in a short-term world. If you want to become dangerously intelligent, you must learn to think beyond the present moment. Most people live in the short term. They chase quick results, quick rewards, quick validation. They want progress now. But the problem is, what's fast is often shallow. Short-term thinking gives you speed, but not distance. It gives you stimulation, but not transformation. Long-term thinking, on the other hand, builds results that last and results that compound. Let's focus on that word: compounding. Compounding isn't just financial. It applies to everything: skills, habits, relationships, knowledge, reputation, discipline. When you think long-term, compounding works for you. When you think short-term, you interrupt it. That's why most people never achieve extraordinary results. They quit too early. They change direction too often. They panic too quickly. And panic destroys progress. Long-term thinking means choosing endurance over excitement. It means building systems instead of chasing moments. It means positioning yourself for the future, not settling for what's easy now. Here's the paradox: long-term thinkers eventually win the short-term game too. Why? Because they make fewer desperate decisions, build real capability, accumulate advantage quietly. By the time others notice the opportunity, they're already ahead. Now let's talk about attention. The modern world is designed for distraction, notifications, endless content, instant entertainment. It feels convenient, but it weakens focus. People lose the ability to sit with discomfort, focus deeply, build patiently. Dangerous intelligence requires the opposite. It requires delayed gratification, deep focus, long-term vision. Instead of asking what feels good right now, you start asking, What will matter in 5 years? That question alone changes your life. It changes how you work, how you build relationships, how you handle mistakes. Short-term thinkers hide mistakes to protect their ego. Long-term thinkers study mistakes to protect their future. Long-term thinking also changes how you deal with people. You stop focusing on transactions and start focusing on trust. You invest in relationships instead of extracting from them. Over time, this builds something powerful: allies, and allies create opportunities, protection, leverage. They open doors you can't open alone. Another major advantage is skill development. Most people want to improve quickly, so they chase shortcuts. But shortcuts create weak skills. Long-term thinkers focus on fundamentals. They don't rush to look impressive. They focus on becoming capable, and capability is what makes you valuable in any environment. Here's another benefit. Long-term thinking makes you emotionally stronger. Short-term thinking makes every setback feel like failure. Long-term thinking turns setbacks into data. A bad week becomes just one moment in a larger journey. Perspective reduces emotional instability, and emotional stability is intelligence. It allows you to think clearly under pressure. Now consider this shift. Most people spend time. Strategic thinkers invest time. Spending time, no return. Investing time, future value. When you invest time, you expect skill growth, knowledge gain, opportunity creation. Time becomes a tool, not something that disappears. But here's the key. Long-term thinking is not passive. It doesn't mean waiting. It means acting now to improve the future. It means making decisions today that make tomorrow easier. And the earlier you start, the more powerful compounding becomes. Even if you start late, it's still worth it, because long-term thinking always beats short-term reaction. Final truth. Long-term success feels slow in the beginning, because compounding starts quietly. But once it builds, it becomes unstoppable. The people who become dangerously intelligent are the ones who can stay consistent during that quiet phase, until it becomes loud. Let's keep going. Same depth, same structure, same meaning. Chapter 4. Train your pattern recognition. One of the most underrated signs of true intelligence is the ability to recognize patterns, not just noticing what happens, but understanding why it happens. Not just observing behavior, but predicting what comes next. When you develop pattern recognition, life stops feeling random. Outcomes stop feeling mysterious. You begin to anticipate instead of react. And even partial prediction gives you a massive strategic advantage, because everything in life follows patterns. Human behavior follows patterns, success follows patterns, failure follows patterns, relationships follow patterns, markets follow patterns, even emotions follow patterns. The people who feel constantly surprised by life are usually the ones who only focus on what's happening right now. They judge situations based on appearance, not direction. Strategic thinkers do the opposite. They don't just ask, "What is happening?" They ask, "Where is this going?" That question separates reactive people from strategic ones, because what matters most is not the event, but the trajectory. A repeated action becomes a habit. A repeated habit becomes a pattern. And a pattern becomes your future. That's why dangerously intelligent people pay attention early. They don't wait for problems to become obvious. They act when signals are still subtle. Pattern recognition also changes how you deal with people. When you understand patterns, you stop taking things personally. You stop treating behavior as isolated incidents and start seeing it as consistent behavior. For example, someone who avoids responsibility will keep avoiding it. Someone who blames others will continue blaming. Someone who lies will lie again. Someone who does the minimum will continue doing the minimum. Once you see the pattern, you stop expecting different results, and that protects your energy. It also protects you from manipulation. People who don't recognize patterns fall into the same traps repeatedly. They believe the same promises. They react to the same emotional triggers. They get surprised by predictable behavior. But pattern-aware thinkers learn quickly. One experience gives them insight. 2 experiences confirm it. 3 experiences establish a rule. Pattern recognition is also essential in decision-making. Top performers, investors, leaders, strategists all rely on patterns. They study past behavior to understand future outcomes, not because the future is identical, but because human nature stays consistent. Technology changes, trends change. But human drivers, fear, ambition, insecurity, desire, remain the same. Now here's something important. Pattern recognition is not something you're born with. It is a skill, and it can be trained. It starts with slowing down. Most people react instantly. They judge quickly. They label situations too fast. But fast interpretation destroys pattern recognition. To see patterns, you must observe before concluding. Ask, have I seen this before? What happened last time? What were the outcomes? Another way to strengthen pattern recognition is learning across different areas. When you study multiple domains, psychology, business, history, behavior, you begin to see repeating principles. For example, discipline leads to success in fitness. Discipline leads to success in business. Discipline leads to success in investing. Different fields, same pattern. The more connections you build, the sharper your thinking becomes. Now let's talk about feedback loops. Patterns become visible when you track outcomes over time. If you never reflect, you never notice repetition. This applies to your own life as well. If your life feels stuck, it's not because nothing is changing. It's because your patterns aren't changing. You're repeating the same habits, the same decisions, the same reactions. Strategic thinkers study their own patterns just as much as external ones. They ask, what keeps happening to me and why? That question alone can save years of repeated mistakes. Pattern recognition also helps you understand success. Some people succeed once and can't repeat it. Why? Because they don't understand the pattern behind it. Others succeed consistently because they understand why it works. And when you understand why, you can improve it, repeat it, and scale it. There's one more benefit. Pattern recognition reduces fear. When life feels random, fear increases. When life feels structured, fear decreases. Even if you're not 100% certain, understanding direction gives you control. You stop feeling like life is happening to you and start feeling like you're interacting with a system you understand. To become dangerously intelligent, train your eyes to notice repetition. Train your mind to see cause and effect. Train your memory to store lessons, not just experiences. Because when you understand patterns, you become harder to fool, harder to surprise, and much harder to stop. Chapter 5. Outsmart problems by anticipating them. One of the biggest advantages of highly intelligent thinkers is this. They don't just solve problems. They prevent them. They think ahead. They notice early signals. They prepare before problems become serious. Instead of constantly reacting, they build systems that reduce chaos. Instead of putting out fires, they prevent fires from starting. Prevention may not look impressive, but it is incredibly powerful. Think about it. Solving a problem costs time, energy, stress. Preventing a problem saves all three. It protects your momentum. It protects your focus. It protects your progress. But most people live with a different mindset. I'll deal with it when it happens. And by the time it happens, it's already worse. Because problems don't appear suddenly. They grow. Small issues become bigger issues. Delays turn into failures. Weak signals turn into crises. That's why anticipation is smarter than reaction. To anticipate problems, you need to think beyond the present moment. Ask yourself, if I continue this path, what happens next? If I make this decision, what could go wrong? These are not negative thoughts. They are strategic thoughts. There's a difference between fear and foresight. Fear weakens you. Foresight prepares you. Strategic thinkers simulate outcomes in their mind. Not complicated simulations, simple ones. They imagine possible consequences, possible risks, possible responses. This gives them options, and options reduce pressure. When you have choices, you stay calm. When you don't, you panic. Now let's connect anticipation with patterns. Problems rarely appear without warning. There are always early signs, small mistakes, repeated delays, subtle discomfort, inconsistent behavior. But most people ignore them. Not because they don't exist, but because they don't want to face them. Strategic thinkers look for these signals early. They act before the problem becomes obvious. Anticipation also requires emotional discipline. Thinking ahead often reveals uncomfortable truths. It forces you to admit risk. It forces you to face uncertainty. That's why many people avoid it. But avoidance doesn't remove problems. It delays them. Facing reality early gives you time to adjust, and time is your biggest advantage. Here's a powerful technique. Inversion. Instead of asking, how do I succeed? Ask, how do I fail? This reveals risks immediately. Once you know what leads to failure, you can avoid it. And avoiding failure makes success easier. This principle is used by top-level thinkers across industries, and it works in everyday life too. Now let's apply anticipation to relationships. Most conflicts don't appear suddenly. They come from miscommunication, unclear expectations, weak boundaries. Smart communicators think ahead. They consider how their words will be received, how others might react, what outcomes might follow. This turns communication into strategy, not emotion. In business, anticipation is even more critical. Entire industries fail because leaders react too late. Strategic leaders see changes early. They position themselves before demand increases. They move before others realize what's happening. That's how they stay ahead. But here's the most important part. Anticipating your own weaknesses. It's easy to see external risks. It's harder to see internal ones. Procrastination, ego, impatience, emotional reactions. Most problems don't come from the outside. They come from within. When your habits clash with reality. If you can anticipate your own weaknesses, you can control them before they control you. That may be the highest level of intelligence. Let's be clear. Anticipation won't remove all problems. Life will always have surprises, but it will remove unnecessary problems, the ones that drain your time, energy, and focus. And every problem you prevent creates more space for progress. That's why highly intelligent people seem calm. It's not that life is easier for them. It's that they've learned to reduce avoidable chaos. To outsmart problems is to think ahead. To think ahead is to respect reality. And to respect reality is to understand. The smartest move is often the one that prevents the problem from ever happening. Chapter 6. Make decisions. Like a chess player. Your decisions determine your direction, and your direction determines your future. If you want to become dangerously intelligent, you must upgrade how you make decisions. Most people decide based on emotion, convenience, impulse. But strategic thinkers operate differently. They think like chess players. They don't just ask, "What should I do right now?" They ask, "What will this decision create 3 steps from now?" That difference separates reactive individuals from strategic ones. In chess, a move is not judged only by its immediate value, but by what it leads to. The same is true in life. Some decisions feel good in the moment, but create long-term problems. Others feel uncomfortable now, but create future advantages. Strategic thinking is about choosing the move that works in sequence, not just in isolation. The first step is understanding the board. In chess, you must know where every piece is before you move. In life, your board includes your environment, your resources, your relationships, your strengths and weaknesses, your opportunities and constraints. A decision made without understanding the board is just guessing, and guessing leads to inconsistency. Once you understand your position, the next step is foresight. Chess players think beyond their move. They anticipate the opponent's response. In life, every decision triggers reactions. When you speak, people respond. When you act, the environment shifts. When you change, others adjust. Strategic thinkers simulate these reactions. They ask, "What happens next?" And after that? And after that? This is what turns decisions into strategy. Another important concept is trade versus sacrifice. A trade is exchanging equal value. A sacrifice is giving up something now to gain something greater later. Most meaningful growth requires sacrifice. Comfort for progress, time for skill, ego for feedback, short-term pleasure for long-term freedom. Short-term thinkers focus on what they lose. Strategic thinkers focus on what they gain. Chess also teaches restraint. Not every opportunity should be taken. Some options are traps disguised as advantages. In life, these traps look like easy money, fast success, quick validation, but they often come with hidden costs. Strategic thinkers pause before acting. They observe before committing, because a pause creates clarity, and clarity prevents regret. Now let's talk about tactics versus strategy. Tactics, short-term actions, strategy, long-term direction. Most people get stuck in tactics. They stay busy all day, but make no real progress, because their actions don't serve a bigger plan. Strategic thinkers align actions with direction. They don't just do things, they do the right things. Now let's address emotion in decision-making. Emotion distorts judgment. Fear exaggerates risk. Anger ignores consequences. Excitement hides danger. Strategic thinkers know when not to decide. They wait, not out of hesitation, but out of control. Because decisions made in emotional extremes often lead to regret. Another key concept, second-order thinking. First-order thinking asks, "What happens if I do this?" Second-order thinking asks, "And then what happens after that?" Most poor decisions come from ignoring the second step. Example: saying yes to everything leads to burnout. Spending impulsively leads to financial stress. Avoiding discomfort leads to long-term weakness. Strategic thinkers always look beyond the first outcome. Now consider resource allocation. Your time, energy, and focus are limited. Not all decisions matter equally. Some choices change everything. Others change nothing. Smart thinkers focus on high-impact decisions. They don't waste energy on trivial battles. Finally, positioning. In chess, a piece becomes powerful based on where it's placed. In life, the same applies. Talent matters, but positioning multiplies it. Being in the right environment, network, industry, opportunity can change everything. Strategic thinkers don't just ask, "What should I do?" They ask, "Where should I be?" Because the right position makes success easier. When you start thinking like a chess player, you stop reacting to life and start designing it. You move with intention. You think in sequences. You build outcomes, not just actions. And that is a core trait of someone becoming dangerously intelligent. Chapter 7. Upgrade your inputs. Upgrade your thinking. Your mind cannot produce better output than what you feed into it. Just like a machine cannot produce quality results from poor materials, your thinking cannot become powerful if your inputs are weak. If you want to become dangerously intelligent, you must upgrade. What you consume, who you interact with, where you operate, what you focus on. Let's start with information. Most people consume content for entertainment, not growth. They scroll endlessly, watch passively, absorb without intention. It feels stimulating, but it changes nothing. The mind stays busy, but not better. To improve your thinking, your inputs must challenge you, stretch you, refine you. Light content is like junk food. It feels good, but doesn't build strength. You need deeper inputs. Books that make you think, ideas that challenge your beliefs, perspectives that force reflection. That's what upgrades your thinking. Now let's talk about conversations. Conversations shape your mindset more than you realize. If you surround yourself with complainers, you become negative. Planners, you become strategic. Builders, you become productive. Thought patterns spread. Behavior spreads. Standards spread. This is why strategic thinkers are selective about who they spend time with, not out of arrogance, but awareness, because environment influences thinking. Now let's talk about physical environment. Your surroundings affect your mind, even subconsciously. Clutter creates distraction. Noise reduces depth. Chaos creates stress. But order creates clarity. Silence encourages reflection. Challenge promotes growth. You cannot develop a strategic mind in a chaotic environment. Many people try to improve themselves, but ignore their environment. That slows everything down. Now here's something most people overlook. Problems are also inputs. The level of problems you deal with determines your level of thinking. If your focus is on drama, gossip, small conflicts, your thinking stays limited. But if you focus on building, creating, solving meaningful challenges, your thinking expands. Strategic thinkers outgrow small problems. They refuse to invest energy in things that don't matter. They protect their mental bandwidth. Now let's talk about questions. Your questions shape your thinking. Weak questions, weak answers. Strong questions, deep insights. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" That shift turns problems into growth. Another challenge today is information overload. More content does not mean better thinking. In fact, too much input destroys clarity. Strategic thinkers filter aggressively. They choose depth over volume, quality over quantity. They don't try to know everything. They focus on what matters. Another powerful input: mentorship. You don't always need direct mentors. You can learn from books, interviews, biographies. This allows you to gain decades of insight in a short time. You don't need to repeat every mistake yourself. You can learn from others. Now let's talk about biological inputs. Your body affects your mind. Poor sleep reduces clarity. Low energy reduces focus. Bad nutrition affects mood. You cannot think clearly if your body is depleted. Mental performance is physical. Now finally, standards. Your standards determine your inputs. If your standard is comfort, you choose easy things. If your standard is growth, you choose challenging things. When your standards rise, your habits improve, your environment improves, your thinking improves. Low-quality inputs stop feeling enjoyable. They start feeling expensive. The truth is simple. Change what you consume, and you change how you think. Upgrade your inputs, and your outputs upgrade automatically. A powerful mind is not random. It is built from what you read, who you listen to, where you spend time, what you tolerate. When you control your inputs, you control your intelligence. Chapter 8. Use mental models to think faster and better. Becoming dangerously intelligent is not about storing more information. It's about having better frameworks to process that information. That's where mental models come in. A mental model is simply a way of understanding how something works. It's a thinking tool, a lens, a shortcut that helps you make better decisions with less confusion. With the right mental models, you don't just think more, you think faster, clearer, and more accurately. Most people rely on instinct. They decide based on habit, emotion, or past experience, without structure. And because they lack structure, they must figure out how to think from scratch every time a problem appears. That's exhausting. Strategic thinking requires efficiency, and efficiency requires tools. Mental models are those tools. Let's start with one of the most powerful, first principles thinking. This model forces you to break things down to their core truths. Instead of copying what others are doing, you ask, what is actually true here? You remove assumptions. You question limitations. You rebuild understanding from the ground up. This is how innovators think. They don't improve old answers. They create new ones. Second-order thinking. Most people stop at the first outcome, but intelligent thinking goes further. You ask, and then what? Because every action has consequences beyond the immediate result. Example: saving money today is good, but investing it wisely is better. Long-term second-order thinking helps you avoid decisions that look good now, but fail later. Inversion. Instead of asking, how do I succeed? Ask, how do I fail? Failure is often easier to identify, and when you remove what causes failure, you naturally move closer to success. This model is simple, but incredibly powerful. The opportunity cost. Every decision has a hidden cost. When you say yes to one thing, you are saying no to something else. Time spent on distraction, lost time for growth, money spent impulsively, lost investment potential. Smart thinkers respect the cost of their choices. They understand that every decision trades one future for another. Probability thinking. Life is uncertain. You rarely have guarantees. So instead of waiting for certainty, you evaluate likelihood. Ask, what are the chances this works? What do I gain if I'm right? What do I lose if I'm wrong? This allows you to act intelligently, even in uncertainty. Psychological models. Not all models are logical. Some are behavioral. For example, confirmation bias. You tend to seek information that supports your beliefs. Knowing this helps you challenge your own thinking. Loss aversion. People fear losing more than they enjoy gaining. This explains why many avoid change, even when it benefits them. Understanding these models helps you think more objectively. Combining models. The real power comes when you combine models. Example: first principles plus opportunity cost. Inversion plus probability thinking. When models work together, your thinking becomes sharper and more accurate. Why mental models matter. They reduce emotional decision-making. They create structure. They allow you to think clearly, even under pressure. Without models, you react with models. You analyze instead of guessing. You evaluate. Instead of rushing, you understand. Mental models don't make you rigid. They make you effective. They allow you to think in frameworks instead of chaos. And when you think better, you move ahead, while others are still trying to catch up. Chapter 9. Observe more, talk less, understand more. One of the most underrated forms of intelligence is observation. Not passive observation, but intentional, focused observation, the kind that pays attention to behavior, patterns, reactions, timing, context. When you observe deeply, you understand how things really work, not how they appear. Talking expresses what you know. Observation expands what you know. People who talk too much reveal too much. They expose their intentions, their weaknesses, their thinking patterns. But those who observe gather information, and information creates advantage. This doesn't mean staying silent all the time. It means prioritizing understanding before expression, because smart communication begins with insight. Observation creates insight. When you observe carefully, you notice things others miss. Example: how someone treats people who can't benefit them, how someone reacts under pressure, who speaks first in a negotiation. These small details reveal deeper truths. Intelligence is not always about answers. Sometimes it's about noticing the right signals. Seeing beyond appearances. Many people judge based on surface-level signals. They assume confidence, competence, success, skill, words, action. But reality is more complex. Some people succeed due to timing, not ability. Some speak well, but lack depth. Observation helps you see beyond illusions. Slow down your judgments. Most people interpret too quickly. They label situations instantly. But speed reduces accuracy. Strategic thinking requires precision, and precision requires patience. Instead of reacting immediately, ask, what is really happening here? What are the hidden factors? What are the incentives? That extra layer of thinking creates clarity. Observation in conflict reveals truth. When pressure increases, people show who they really are. The calm show discipline. The insecure show ego. The manipulative show tactics. You learn more in moments of tension than in comfortable conversations. Observers gain advantage because they stay calm while others react. The power of silence. Silence is a strategic tool. When you speak less, others reveal more. You gather more information. You maintain control. In a noisy world, silence stands out. The loud try to impress. The quiet understand. Learning through observation. You don't need to experience everything personally. You can learn by watching others. Their mistakes, their decisions, their outcomes. Every environment becomes a classroom. Every situation becomes data. This reduces your own trial and error. Observation and timing. Timing matters. The right action at the wrong time fails. The wrong action at the right time may succeed. Observation helps you recognize timing. It teaches you when to act, wait, speak, stay silent. Final thought. Intelligence is not just about knowing more, it's about perceiving more. The more you observe, the more you understand. The more you understand, the better your decisions. And better decisions create better outcomes. So, observe more, talk less, understand deeply, because the person who sees clearly moves strategically. Chapter 10. Master emotional control to avoid. Poor decisions intelligence breaks down the moment emotion takes control, not because emotions are bad, but because intense emotions narrow your perception. When you feel fear, you see only danger. When you feel anger, you see only offense. When you feel excitement, you see only opportunity. Emotion filters reality, and when reality is distorted, decisions become flawed. If you want to become dangerously intelligent, you must learn to stay clear while emotions rise. You must think before reacting. Respond instead of impulsively acting. Stay composed when others lose control. True intelligence is not just logical, it's emotional. It requires managing impulses, triggers, and reactions. Think about how many bad decisions come from emotional moments. Money lost through impulse, relationships damaged by anger, opportunities missed due to fear, progress delayed by overreaction. In the moment, emotional decisions feel powerful. Afterward, they often lead to regret. The difference is clarity. When emotions settle, clarity returns, but the consequences remain. That's why strategic thinkers create distance between stimulus and response. They don't react immediately. They pause. They allow emotion to settle, so logic can return. This pause is not weakness, it is control. Recognizing your triggers. You cannot control what you don't recognize. Most people only realize their emotional reaction after the damage is done. Strategic thinkers study themselves. They notice how their body reacts, how their thoughts shift, how their focus narrows. Once you detect the trigger, you can interrupt the reaction, and that interruption is where intelligence takes over. Understanding fear. Fear is not always a warning, it is often a signal. Sometimes it protects you, sometimes it limits you. The key question is this fear protecting me or holding me back? That distinction turns fear into useful data. Channeling anger is powerful, but dangerous. It pushes you toward immediate action, but that action is often reckless. Instead of suppressing anger, redirect it. Use its energy toward improvement, progress, discipline, not toward reaction or revenge. Anger can fuel growth or destroy it. The difference is control. Managing excitement. Excitement feels positive, but it can be just as risky. It blinds you to danger. It creates overconfidence. It pushes you into commitments too quickly. Strategic thinkers balance excitement with patience. They don't eliminate emotion, they manage it. The role of ego. Ego wants to be right, to win, to be recognized. But ego-driven decisions sacrifice long-term outcomes for short-term validation. You may win an argument, but lose a relationship. You may prove a point, but lose an opportunity. Strategic thinkers prioritize results over pride. They care about outcomes, not appearances. Calmness as a competitive advantage. Calmness is power. In stressful situations, most people panic. Few stay composed. The calm person thinks more clearly, makes better decisions, maintains control. Calmness preserves intelligence. Panic destroys it. Never decide in emotional extremes. This is one of the most important rules. Never make major decisions when emotions are high. Not when you are angry, you are afraid, you are overly excited, you are frustrated. Because emotional states distort judgment. Wait. Let clarity return. Then decide. Final thought. Intelligence is not just about what you know. It's about what you can resist. The ability to pause, to think, to stay composed. That is real power. When you control your emotions, you protect your decisions. And when you protect your decisions, you protect your future. Chapter 11. Develop tactical communication skills. Thinking clearly is powerful, but communicating clearly multiplies that power. Being dangerously intelligent is not just about understanding, it's about influence. Communication allows you to align people, resolve conflict, build trust, create opportunities. It turns ideas into results. But most people communicate emotionally, not strategically. They speak to express, not to achieve. Tactical communication is different. It is intentional, measured, purpose-driven. Clarity in communication. Confusion creates conflict. Many misunderstandings don't come from disagreement, but from unclear communication. Strategic communicators say what they mean. Avoid ambiguity. Adjust based on the audience. They don't try to sound impressive. They focus on being understood. The power of restraint. Not everything needs to be said. Not everything needs to be said immediately. Strategic communicators know when to speak, when to pause, when to stay silent. Silence is not weakness. It is control. It creates space, and space reveals information. Listening as intelligence. Most people listen to reply. Smart communicators listen to understand. They pay attention to tone, timing, hesitation, what is not being said, because hidden meaning often matters more than spoken words. Framing matters. How you say something changes how it is received. Example, "You're wrong," creates resistance. Here's another perspective, invites openness. Same idea, different result. Framing reduces friction. Handling conflict. Strategically, conflict is unavoidable, but not every conflict deserves your energy. Strategic communicators don't react to everything. Choose their battles carefully. Know when to engage or disengage. Sometimes the best move is not to fight. Influence. Without force. Influence is not control. It is alignment. You don't push people, you guide them. Instead of telling, ask questions. Questions create thinking. Statements create resistance. Negotiation. Thinking. In negotiation, you must understand what the other person wants, what they fear, what they value. If you only focus on yourself, you lose leverage. If you understand both sides, you gain it. Setting boundaries. Boundaries protect your time, energy, focus. They are not aggression, they are clarity. Strategic communicators set boundaries calmly and clearly, without guilt, without over-explaining. Self-awareness in communication. Communication is not just what you say, it's how you say it, when you say it, who you say it. To your tone, pace, and presence all matter. Strategic communicators adapt. They know when to be direct, be subtle, be firm, be quiet. Final thought communication is leverage. It turns thinking into action. It creates trust, influence, and opportunity. When you communicate strategically, you avoid unnecessary conflict. You build stronger relationships. You move more effectively through life, because intelligence is not just about thinking well. It's about expressing it in a way that works. Chapter 12. Use time as a strategic weapon. Time is something everyone uses, but very few understand. Most people spend time. Strategic thinkers invest it. If you observe highly intelligent individuals, you'll notice something different. They don't just manage time, they use it strategically. They use time to build advantage, develop leverage, outlast competition, create compounding results. While others focus on speed, they focus on sequence. Instead of asking, "How fast can I get there?" they ask, "What is the smartest order of steps?" Time is not equal. Two people can spend the same hour, but get completely different results. Why? Because of direction. Being busy is not the same as being productive. Busyness activity without purpose; productivity, action with intention; leverage, action that compounds. Strategic thinkers focus on leverage. Prioritization. Not all tasks are equal. Some actions create massive impact, others create noise. Smart thinkers identify the few tasks that truly matter. They eliminate low-value work, delay unnecessary tasks, focus on high-impact actions. Because progress doesn't come from doing more, it comes from doing what matters. The power of sequencing. Doing the right thing at the wrong time slows you down. Many people fail, not because they lack effort, but because they act in the wrong order. Strategic thinkers ask, what should come first to make everything else easier? Correct order saves time. Wrong order wastes it. Patience as an advantage. Patience is underrated, but powerful. When you can wait longer than others, you build deeper skills. You stay in opportunities longer. You avoid panic decisions. Impatience interrupts progress. Patience allows compounding. The danger of constant urgency. Urgency has its place, but it should not be your default state. Constant urgency leads to shallow thinking, poor decisions, stress. When you're always reacting, you're always behind. Strategic thinkers create space. They slow down to think so they can move faster later. The compounding over time. Small actions repeated consistently create massive results. 10 pages a day, dozens of books, 10 minutes practice, mastery over time. Small investments, long-term wealth. The same applies negatively. Small distractions, lost focus, small delays, lost opportunities. Everything compounds. But energy over time. Time is not just hours, it's usable energy. One focused hour is more valuable than 5 distracted ones. Strategic thinkers protect their energy. They know when they think best and schedule accordingly. Long-term thinking with time. Most people think day to day. Strategic thinkers think years ahead. They ask, what will this decision look like in 3, 5, or 10 years? Long-term thinking raises your standards. It makes growth more important than comfort. Time reveals priorities. People say what matters to them, but their time shows the truth. If something truly matters, it gets time. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Time never lies. Eliminate time. Time leaks are silent killers. They don't destroy your life instantly. They slowly take it away. Examples: endless scrolling, overthinking, drama, procrastination. Strategic thinkers remove these leaks. They protect their time like a resource. Final thought. You don't have more time than others. You just use it differently. When you prioritize correctly, sequence wisely, invest consistently, time becomes your advantage. And when time works for you, life becomes easier, not harder. Chapter 13. Build leverage. Tools, skills, and people effort has limits. No matter how hard you work, you only have limited time, limited energy, limited attention. That's why intelligent thinkers don't rely only on effort. They use leverage. Leverage allows you to do more with less effort. Leverage through tools. Tools multiply output. They help you work faster, work smarter, reduce effort. Examples: software automates tasks, systems organize work, checklists reduce mistakes, tools reduce friction and increase consistency. The leverage through skills. Skills are long-term leverage. Unlike tools, skills stay with you. High-value skills include communication, thinking, learning, decision-making. These apply everywhere, and they compound over time. The better your skills, the less effort you need to create results. Leverage through people. You cannot do everything alone. Strategic thinkers build networks, teams, partnerships. They don't try to do everything. They focus on what they do best and let others do the same. This increases output without increasing stress. The quality of people matters. The people around you shape your results. Strong people, growth. Weak environments, stagnation. Strategic thinkers choose carefully because the wrong people multiply problems. The right people multiply opportunities. Leverage through capital is not just money. It includes reputation, trust, credibility. These create opportunities. When people trust you, things move faster. When your reputation is strong, doors open automatically. Leverage through systems. Systems allow you to create once and benefit repeatedly. Examples: content that reaches many people, processes that run without constant effort. This is time leverage. You stop trading time for results and start multiplying results. It's the cost of no leverage without leverage. You work harder, but don't move faster. You stay busy, but don't grow. With leverage, effort creates exponential results. Leverage requires clarity. You must know what you're building, what your strengths are, where you need support. Otherwise, you build inefficient systems. Leverage requires patience. Leverage doesn't give instant results. Skills take time, systems take time, trust takes time, but once built, it multiplies everything. The risk of leverage increases both success and failure. Wrong tools, faster mistakes, wrong people, bigger problems. That's why intelligent thinkers are selective. Final thought: leverage is about efficiency. It allows you to do more, stress less, grow faster. Without it, success is exhausting. With it, success becomes sustainable, and eventually, it becomes easier. Chapter 14. Think in systems, not events. Most people react to what happens. Dangerously intelligent thinkers focus on why it happens. They understand that outcomes are not random events. They are the result of systems. A system is a structure made of habits, behaviors, incentives, patterns that consistently produces certain results. When you think in systems, life becomes predictable. When you think only in events, life feels chaotic. Events versus systems. Event thinkers say, "This happened to me." System thinkers ask, "What system created this outcome?" That question changes everything, because once you understand the system, you can change the result. Example: health. Most people treat health as an event. They react when something goes wrong. But health is not an event. It's a system. It's built on sleep, nutrition, movement, stress. Fix the system and the outcome improves automatically. Example: success. Success is not random. It comes from systems like skill development, consistency, visibility, value creation. Failure also comes from systems. When you change the system, you change the result. Focus on root causes. Most people try to fix symptoms. Strategic thinkers fix the system behind the problem. Example: procrastination is not laziness. It's often caused by lack of clarity, poor structure, fear of failure. Fix the system, and the behavior changes. Understanding feedback loops. Systems are driven by feedback loops. Positive loops strengthen behavior. Negative loops weaken it. Example: good habit, progress, motivation, more good habits. Bad habit, failure, frustration, more bad habits. Recognizing loops allows you to intervene early. Incentives drive behavior. People act based on incentives, not intentions. If you want to change behavior, change the incentives. This applies to personal habits, business systems, relationships. Change the structure, behavior follows. Reduce emotional reaction. When you understand systems, you react less emotionally. You stop blaming people. You start analyzing structure. Instead of asking, who is at fault, you ask, what caused this? This leads to better solutions. Avoid single cause thinking. Most outcomes are not caused by one factor. They are caused by multiple interacting elements. Strategic thinkers look at the full system, not just one part. Design your life systems thinking allows you to design your life. Instead of reacting, you build structures that produce results. You create better habits, better environments, better outcomes. Final thought events are loud. Systems are quiet, but systems determine everything. If you want to change your life, stop focusing on moments. Start changing the system behind them. Chapter 15. Learn how to learn. The most valuable skill you can develop is learning how to learn. Because knowledge changes, industries evolve, technology advances, opportunities shift, but the ability to learn keeps you adaptable. Memorization versus understanding. Most people confuse memorization with learning. Memorization fades, understanding stays. True learning expands your thinking, improves your decisions, builds new capabilities. Curiosity drives learning. Curiosity is the engine of learning. When you're curious, learning becomes natural. Ask, why does this work? How can this improve? Curiosity turns learning into exploration. Connection builds memory. The brain stores information through connections. The more you connect ideas, the better you understand them. Ask, what does this relate to? Where else does this apply? Patterns make knowledge stick. Focus is. Essential learning requires attention. Multitasking weakens it. Deep focus strengthens it. One focused hour is more valuable than several distracted ones. Feedback accelerates growth. Feedback shows the gap between what you think you know, what actually works. You can get feedback through mentors, reflection, reviewing mistakes. Mistakes are data. Fear of mistakes slows learning. Strategic thinkers treat mistakes as information. Every mistake teaches something. The faster you learn from mistakes, the faster you improve. Iteration builds. Skill learning is repetition with improvement. Try, adjust, improve, repeat. This builds real ability. Compression simplifies learning. Too much information creates confusion. Smart thinkers simplify. They reduce complexity into clear frameworks. Teaching strengthens understanding. If you can teach something, you understand it. If you can't, you don't fully understand it yet. Teaching forces clarity. Environment shapes learning. Your environment affects your growth. Growth-focused environments. Encourage thinking, support improvement. Choose your environment wisely. Final thought. Learning is not fixed, it is a skill. The better you learn, the faster you grow. And the faster you grow, the more opportunities you create. Conclusion. Becoming dangerously intelligent. Becoming dangerously intelligent is not about appearing superior. It's about becoming effective. It's about thinking clearly, acting strategically, understanding deeply. It's about seeing patterns, controlling emotions, making better decisions, and building systems that work. These skills are not natural talents. They are built through practice, awareness, consistency. You don't need to apply everything at once. Start small. Improve gradually, because small improvements compound into major results. Final message. The world rewards speed, distraction, reaction, but it also rewards those who choose clarity, patience, strategy. The difference is in your thinking. When you observe more, think deeper, act intentionally, you gain an advantage most people never develop. 1. Truth to remember. Intelligence is not fixed. It is built through what you consume, practice. Focus on every decision shapes your thinking. Every habit builds your mind. Closing line. If you choose to continue this path, the tools are here, the frameworks are here. Now the responsibility is yours, and that is exactly where it should be.